fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren.
Heard on KCAA 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
And we're back. Joining us, David Oman. And for those of you who don't know who he is, and what a great story we have here, you're going to be real thrilled. Now, David, thank you for taking the time and doing this interview.
Oh, it's my pleasure, please. I'm glad to be on.
Okay, well, David, let's start with, so now we've got a lot of people that don't know who you are and what this is going to be about, other than the little ads they see. So let's start out with you and kind of how you got to doing what you were doing.
Well, I've always been interested and fascinated by the paranormal, but this was a little bit well beyond my wildest dreams. I'd always wanted, as a child, to always see a haunted house, so much so that I would go to my parents' friends' houses, and upon arrival the first time I'd say, "Excuse me, is your house haunted?" And my mother would take me aside and say, "No, we don't say that when we go into people's homes, David." I was like, all right, well, I can't help but me be me. So, of course, I would do that. But about, this is about 16 years ago, my father gives me a call late November, early December on a Sunday morning and says, wakes me up at 8 o'clock and says, "I found a lot. I want you to go up here and meet me. It's $40,000. And it's like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Where is it? It's in Beverly Hills. It's like, what, is it a vertical slope? I said, "You serious? 40,000?" So he says, "No, it's $40,000, and it's a foreclosure, and it's a problem lot." And so he gives me the address, and he says it's up on Cielo Drive. I think nothing of it. And I drive up here, and I ended up meeting him, and he ends up getting here after I get here. And I look at the end of the drive, and I said, "Oh my God, that's where the Sharon Tate murders took place." And I pointed it out to him, and he just said, "I don't care, because I'm here to look at this piece of property." So he looks at the property, and it's a hillside. And needless to say, he says, "This is a non-buildable lot, but I have a feeling it's buildable, and there's something, with the CC&Rs on the, basically upon the reports that they've got on the, the building reports is all wrong." And sure enough, it turns out it was a mistaken, it was mistranslated from one piece of document to another, and therefore it was considered non-buildable. We bought the lot and we started building. During construction, I immediately knew that there was something hinky going on here. And what I mean by hinky is it just had a weird feeling on the lot, on the hillside, when we actually put up the first, second, and third floors. So what I mean by that is I'm walking around the property, and I can feel different, like somebody's like behind me. And I mean, it's the weirdest sensation, and since I've moved in, we've had other people that have described the same exact experience. And by that I mean, it's just that sensation that there's somebody, behind you, and they're about to say something, but they're not there.
So, is this actually a lot like that was? No. Can you explain that?
I'm down the driveway from that.
You're down the driveway from it. Okay.
Right. So my house is literally the fourth house down from where Sharon Tate's house stood.
Now, is
on the private driveway?
Is Sharon Tate's house still up?
No, they tore that down in 1992 through 1994.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they ended up building a 10,000 square foot monstrosity called Villa Bella, which was then sold and then expanded upon that, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
And it's enormous. And it's a nice house, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, I can't say anything about the property presently, of course. But what's interesting is I had Lisa Williams come here to my house. And Lisa, as you know, is the famous psychic. And this is about 8 years ago, right after the Ghost Hunters show episode aired. And Lisa comes in and she says, "Oh, do you know you have a big party at your bar?" And I looked at her, and this is now 5 years after I'd moved in. And I said, I don't see anybody. And she goes, "Oh, well, Sharon's there, Jay's there, Rudolph Valentino's there, there's a bunch of other people there, there's some Native Americans." And I'm going, "Huh?" And she says, "They all want me to tell you that they really appreciate your allowing them to stay here and visit your house and basically cohabitate here." I said, "Well, far be it from me to sit there and tell them, especially Sharon and Jay and the rest of the victims, to have to leave and go elsewhere, considering the fact that I know what I know and I've seen the pictures at the, excuse me, at the crime, at the police station, because I wanted to do some research about the property and to do a book about the house, and was wondering if there was anything that they found here during the day of the murders, which unfortunately there wasn't." But in so doing, I saw all the pictures, and I was pretty much saying, "Look, if they want to hang here, by all means, let them hang here. I'm not going to be a piece of work and say, no, I'm going to add insult to injury, and besides the fact that you've died this horrible death, you can't stay here at all." So Lisa says, "Well, that's what I'm telling you. I really appreciate the fact that you're so welcoming and letting them stay." And I said, "That's okay." I said, "I feel never alone." And she laughed, and she goes, "That's what they like about you. You've got a charming sense of humor." She says, they love your parties, too. And I was like going, okay. Now, this is a woman who's never been to my house. And this is my house from the TV show, Ghost Hunters. And that was it. There were no big things about YouTube. I wasn't doing all these videos, etc. down there. But it's kind of an interesting fact. I was having parties, and she was describing things. So, since that time, we've had lots of things. People have come in, like Chris Fleming from the Ghost Hunters, has also come on his own. Besides Lisa Williams, we had James Bond Prague with What's His Face with Larry King Live come over. We've had Jackie Barrett from America's Psychic Challenge come in. I've spoken to Marianne Winkowski, the Real Life Ghost Whisperer, a number of times about my house. And it's just fascinating to get to meet these people and become friends with them and talk to them and have them come in and visit the house, etc. Yeah. It's just really a wild opportunity, to say the least. That I have the opportunity to do that because of my home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and since living there, and before people started coming over, did you notice anything yourself?
You mean as far as the paranormal is concerned? I mean, I've always been fascinated by it.
Right.
You could say. What I've seen is I've never seen any ghosts or anything like that. I have had a sixth sense about things. How should I say? Like, I've always felt like I've had a guide, and I've always been told I've got a very strong guide, blah, blah, blah. And I've always had a certain sense of knowing things before they happened and being able to, like, finally fine-tune and think, oh, okay, I won't do that then. And then learning that because I didn't do something, I didn't get into a car accident because somebody else was involved and where I would have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's very strong and clear. And it's obviously gotten stronger and better since I've lived here at this house.
Yeah.
So I'm much more conscious of it.
Do you ever get any sort of negative feelings or the senses you pick up? Are you ever getting it that's a little bit negative or scary or eerie of some sort?
No, I've gotten forewarning of things going to happen, premonitions coming true, information being told to me. Again, negative is a matter of, like, if somebody comes into the house and the house doesn't like them, they'll be basically pushed out of the house.
Have you actually seen that happen or been around?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I'll tell you a very, very famous one, and indeed it's that. Zach Beef Baggins.
Old Zach. There you
Had
go.
to say that. Old Zach boy. I won't say that ever again. He had himself a hell of a time, literally, here. And so did the other boys. The three of them had a hell of a time here. Zach, Aaron, and Nick all had a troubling time here. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I told them during the shoots, they were here for like 4 days, which is one of the longest shoots I've ever had in experience of any of the 6 shows. Because I'll tell your audience, we've had the Ghost Hunters, I've had My Ghost Story, Paranormal Witness, Haunted History, Ghost Adventures, and then Ghost Adventures Aftershock. Plus a couple of shows in the UK, what was the Dead Famous Live, and a show for the same production company called Searching for Satan, which aired June 6th, 2006. So that's 6666.
Perfect.
Yes, terrific, exactly. So that's when that aired. But like I said, of all those shows, plus countless other TV and radio people, like, the local news has been out here a couple times, LA Times. But of all of those people that have been out here, Zach was the only one who got way, 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 way hit over the head. I mean, literally, they came out and they did a reenactment based on this girl who said that her name was Trey Fordham. And she said Trey said she was out here and she was with some people, and I barely remember her. So I then remembered her calling me up several years later and saying she wanted to come back to the house, and then disappeared. Never heard from her again. Later to find out that she'd driven up here with her mom, unbeknownst to me, and at the bottom of the driveway coming up, she says she saw an apparition of a bloody Sharon Tate with the stomach pregnant, covered in blood. And I looked at the producers and I said, "A chance in hell did that happen?" I said, "I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it." I said, "Sharon would not appear to this woman out of the blue since she doesn't have a connection to Sharon in any way, shape, or form. Furthermore, she wouldn't come back as the bloody, disgusting way she died." I said, "That's just drama-filled bull." And so, and of course, in the episode, she then says, that a week later she was in the grocery store and she felt faint. She felt like her spirit was leaving her body, which I said, "Well, that's fine, honey, but that has nothing to do with your visit to my house. You're a week later, great. I'm glad you felt that. Maybe that was something you were feeling from low blood sugar. I don't know." But he then said, famously on the show, "Oh yeah, the next day he's telling it to Barry Taff, and he goes, the next day she says she was at the grocery store and she felt sick." Another embellishment. I want to straighten thing out, by the way. He said my house sits on Native American ceremonial burial ground, which it does not. It's a side of a hill. It's literally a 45-degree angle side of a slope of a hill. So the ghosts weren't, coming up. I mean, people weren't coming up here and burying themselves. They're dead on the side of the mountain. They had plenty of places otherwise to bury their dead. But the bottom line is that was what happened. So as a result, after they did this little reenactment with this girl, I took some photographs during said reenactment, and get a load of this. In the middle of one of the series of photographs, there's this crazy, brilliant light coming out of her stomach that shouldn't be there. And if you look at the series of photographs, and I'll send them to you, right in between, there's just this one image that's just got this brilliant light pouring right out of her stomach, and it shouldn't be there. So, so the next night when they did the lockdown, I told them, I said, well, first, during this reenactment, I said, "You guys are going to be really messed up tomorrow night." I said, "I'm telling you, I'm getting all these daggers and steel knives sticking in my back and all over me, and I'm just feeling, I'm like, ooh, you really pissed them off. Literally, you've really managed to really insult the memory of, and da-da-da-da-da." And I said, I told the producer, Jeff Belanger, I said, "You guys are going to get really messed up." And he scoffed at it. He basically said, "Whatever." And I said, "Uh-huh." So the next night, they were supposed to start at 9 o'clock and go 9 to 3. And I told them verbatim, I said, "You guys are going to get crapped on." I said, you watch it. And they thought I was kidding. So if you watch the beginning of my episode of those adventures, I go to the top of the stairs, and I looked and I said, you guys, I said, spirits, I said, I don't want you to hurt anybody. I said, you can't do that. I said, you promise not to hurt anybody. I said, no, because I could feel their wrath. They were like, get them in here. Let's get them in. Like we're taking these beings, these people, these criminals to an execution chamber. They wanted to really go at them. It was crazy. I could feel this energy just like stirring in the house, and I haven't felt that. But I knew how to respect it. Because when I feel it, it's like going, ooh. They got into the house, and they started at 9 o'clock. Well, funny thing happened. Their equipment all died at 9 o'clock and had major problems. So they couldn't start the reenactment till 10 o'clock. And I was like, wow. And he goes, yeah, we're having problems with the equipment. I said, oh, yeah. I said, how interesting is that? I said, the first of many things you're going to have problems with. I have a feeling. And I said, I haven't felt it like this ever in my entire time of living here. So they said, there's shoot. And I said, they said, get in the car. And I said, yeah, I'll get the dogs in the car. I said, look, I'm a film producer. I said, you're not going to get me to sit in the car. And I said, okay, fine, you can get out of the car. I said, you can come out and hang out with us. And it's like, all right, fine. So I hung out with the photographers, and I was hanging out on the side of the house and stuff. And the first thing I hear is one of the, Zach comes up, and I said, how you doing? And he goes, oh, your house is crazy. I said, one of the figurines just got knocked over because I couldn't go in the house, but I wasn't going to sit in the car with the dogs kind of thing, right? So I sat there and I listened to them, and Zach's like saying, wow. He goes, you really live in this. And there was a lot of stuff, funny enough, that was shot, that happened, that did not make it into the show. Oh. And if you want to know what that is, it's an example. They were sitting there going, and they went downstairs, and they came upstairs, and we're all upstairs. No one's in the house, supposedly. And Zach and I and everybody's upstairs, and we're just talking, chit-chat. And all of a sudden, the guy with a beard with the audio tech goes and says, hey, he goes, Zach, get over here. And he puts the headphones on. And I kid you not, there's a voice of a dog, somebody going like, ruff. And I said, what's going on? He says, you won't believe this. I said, what? He goes, listen to this. So he plays it back to me, and I said, what's going on? There's no one downstairs, and the mic's at the bottom of the stairwell. And he says, we've got a sound of a voice. And I said, yeah, let me hear it. He goes, woof. I listened to the thing. That's what I heard? I said, who's down there playing the dog? He goes, no one. And then he plays me back another thing where we've got the sound of footsteps going across what sounds like plastic rustling over something. And I said, well, yeah. And he said, what do you mean, yeah? I said, well, you see, I've got cats, and my cats have a bad habit. And he says, what's that? He goes, they like to pee on the door that's down there now at the third level. So if they ever get out, I said, I'm going to put a plastic barrier, a vapor barrier, underneath the actual carpet, between the carpet and the padding. That way, if they do, the liquid can't penetrate and get into the sponge-like material that is the padding, and I can basically use a steam vac to basically absorb and pull it all out, and it won't really make a stain smell. He goes, that's a great idea. And I said, plus, when you walk across this 8-foot section of carpet, you end up hearing the sound of footsteps going against the plastic underneath. And he goes, oh, he goes, yeah, but it's amazing. I said, yeah. I said, because you hear anybody that walks in that area make sounds of the footsteps. So he goes, well, there's no one down there, and we've got the sound coming right in the microphone that's 6 feet up on the boom pole, and you can hear the sound of footsteps through that whole corridor there going into the theater room from the landing. I said, yeah, that's where the plastic is. He goes, and there's no one down there. So they started then going back and doing their investigation, and Zach comes upstairs and literally falls on the ground in front of my face in the street, right in front of my house. And I'm like, you okay? And he's like, there's no cameras around, right? Because nobody's following this crowd. And he comes up and he just falls down. I said, Zach, you okay? And then the producers come up and say, Zach, you okay? And I look at him first, and his eyes were like squirrely. I said, so, you okay? And he goes, He goes, I don't know. I said, oh, yeah. I said, you got hit. You got it. They're getting there. In the meantime, I'm hearing that later on, and this is in the shortest amount of time. You don't understand. This ended at 1 o'clock in the morning. It started at 10 and ended at 1:10 in the morning. They were already out of here. Oh. I looked at my watch. I was like, oh, my God. He goes, you've got enough footage. But in that duration of 3 hours and 10 minutes, this is the kind of stuff that happened. So he goes down, and I'm like upstairs, and they sent one of the boys down to go down. Nick goes down by himself to the third level, and he's down there, and he's looking around, and all of a sudden he's feeling like there's something bothering him. And I mean, like, really bothering him. He's like just in the threshold from the theater room into the Gershon guest bedroom, and all of a sudden we're watching the infrared on the video, and you can see these two orbs going into his skull from the ceiling. And yes, they might be dust, but isn't it interesting that there's two freaking balls of energy that are floating from nowhere and then right into his head, both on the same trajectory and stopping into his head. So it's like, okay, well, got a problem with that, I do. So the next thing is he feels all like he all of a sudden reacts to something hitting him, and he can't see because he's in the dark. And he throws his camera down and throws a hissy fit, and the whole 9 yards hits up. And meantime, Zach and Aaron are upstairs watching this, and I'm watching their reactions in the van while this is happening. And the cameras are on them, and they're cracking the hell up. And I'm like, you two pieces of work are sitting here laughing while your friend is down there getting nailed. I said, and it's really because because he's an associate of yours, not because he did something, but because he's associated with the production, with you guys, because, you know what I'm saying? I said, that's really horrendous that you guys wouldn't go down there and try to get his ass out. Yeah. No, finally they decide they're going to go down there and, they're going to go get him out. And finally they finally get him back out. And I was like, you are such a worthless piece of junk. How dare you sit there and abandon him? And this is going on. Forget what's on the camera. I'm watching this go on live in front of me. I'm going, I'd be down there in 2 seconds and grab him to get him out. I say, do you want me to go? He said, no, David, you can't go down there. You can't. He's got to deal with this. And it's like, okay. And I live here, so it's like, me, I stand up to the stuff, but they also say to me, you disrespect us, you get spanked.
Yeah.
That's it. And I said, hey, you know something? You got your rights. You've got your rights to feel the way you do, and I certainly, far be it from me to be an a-hole to say, you know something? You don't have the rights to enforce those kind of redeeming qualities on the house. And it's like, you know something? You're right. This shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they go down and help him?
Dramatic purposes.
Yeah.
It was just to be like, they were laughing. It was all done for television as far as the humor. They would have gone, again, it's not even for television purposes. That's who he is.
Yeah.
He didn't feel compelled that he had to go basically down there to take care of him. I was like, why not? You certainly should. You rescue your buddy. You don't let him sit there and deal with it. He was having a tough time with it,
Yeah.
It's like no man left behind.
Right, yeah.
Like, what the hell? And it's an immediate response in my thing. Somebody's feeling something, and I can override that. I'm not going to let them suffer needlessly and pointlessly. And to me, it was completely, really obnoxious, because I was watching thinking, you're not going to go down there and get him? Come on, get off your ass. I said to him, because I'm watching this, I said, do you want me to go down there and get him? Do you want me to help him? He said, no, you can't. You're in your car. You remember? It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm the homeowner going, I'm compassionate, and I'm very concerned about his well-being, because I don't know what it is, but I know one thing for sure. I'll put myself in his shoes in a heartbeat, because I'm the one who's basically asking for them to be here. It's not fair for me not to put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
So, I want to protect somebody from something that's afflicting him in my home, that's making him feel very, very, unsettled, to say the least.
Yeah.
But needless to say, that's what happened. And I was pretty ticked off. So then they come back upstairs, go back downstairs, and they get him, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know, the whole thing plays out, and I'm like, oh boy, what's next? Next thing you know is one of them comes upstairs. I forgot who it was. I think, again, it was Nick or Aaron, and he's got a burn on his, he says, ow! And he comes up, see, I don't even hear it, but I hear him coming upstairs, and he pulls his T-shirt up, and he's got a burn mark right in the middle of his stomach. Now, again, I've never had that happen, but again, people that very, very disrespectfully treat energies and spirits are just are just as susceptible to have somebody physically smack you because you're insulting them. It doesn't matter if you're alive or you're dead, you're still insulting somebody, and the energy of the insult and disrespecting them, I'm getting, is what really is all about. And that's why I think they got physically, pulverized, as well as the fact that Aaron, I do believe, told me, I do believe he mentioned that he likes to request spirits upon himself, that they can habitate inside of him.
Okay. And
and that's the ultimate disrespect when you think about it.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're asking for spirits to enter upon your body and to, take your body upon themselves to live in you. That's a pretty low point in self-esteem, let us just say.
Yeah.
And that was actually accused by Zach of me that I share my body with spirits, with many spirits, and that's what's going on here. That sometimes people who are possessed don't know it, blah blah blah. And I'm a perfect example of that, living in this house. The spirits are actually possessed. I'm possessed. And I was pretty furious when I read that little point in his book, I Am Haunted, which, no, this is not a plug for that book. I've got 3.5 pages in a chapter there about me, but no, I am pretty, let us say, upset about that, because he said a bunch of other things. I'm a poltergeist agent. I mean, things that are his opinion, but are complete blasphemy in my personal opinion. I think it's complete bunk and bull.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, that I'm a poltergeist agent. Oh yes, maybe I represent John Belushi, Keith Moon, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, a few of the other famous dead celebrity rock and rollers that were bad boys alive. Now that they're dead, they're still bad boys.
Yeah.
Bon Scott of AC/DC. I mean, it's just. It's preposterous what he says, but that's what he says about me. In any event.
Yeah.
Well. So the house, like I said, had really messed him up. So when he comes upstairs, he's got he's got one big scratch in his stomach, and it's like, what the? And it's like, well, if you ask spirits to inhabit your body, and you come to a place like mine, where the electromagnetic field levels are around 6,000 plus positive, and some parts 6,000 milligauss negative. And normal, as you know, is between 300 and 500 milligauss positive. That's how crazy the electromagnetic readings are at this house.
Yeah.
These were documented by Barry Taff some 8 years ago when he was here.
Yeah. So was that kind of the only people that kind of had a bad experience going through the house,
yeah.
You might say? Yeah. I would figure so, because I think we all sort of think about the same about them, too. And
I mean, I've had things like Chris Fleming's been here a couple of times and done some EVP sessions. And in one instance, and I think this is very, very indicative of how spirits work, they had met him before. He's been here 3 or 4 times, and the resident spirits, how should we say, made some commentary about him. Let's just say they weren't exactly appreciative of him personally. So in one case, there was an EVP session where one spirit in particular took it out to say, F you, die and leave this house. And one woman during the session that heard this replied, oh my God, there's a demon in this house. And I said, oh no, that's a demon. I said, no, they just personally don't like Chris. I said, let me put it to you this way. If you overheard me say that's a Chris, would you call me a demon? I said, no. I said, well, I would call you an eavesdropper is what I would do. I said, she laughed. I said, but the point is that the spirits is a person's personality. And if they don't like Chris, they're going to say it. And that's what you got there, is a personality of someone who said, I don't like you, get the hell, and that's what they're saying it for. That's who's the source is. Don't take it on that everybody is saying the same thing to everybody. It's not about everybody. It's about Chris.
Yeah.
And specifically, Chris said that's what that's about. And she was like, oh. And I said, exactly. Now you understand? She goes, yes. I said, if the person asking the question is the person who's going to get an answer. Unless otherwise where it says something personally about someone else, and the answering is being done by the person who's asking it. It could be like, is anybody here, like, who do you want to speak to? And it says, such and such. It's like, oh, this is about you, directed to you, and from this person who's now speaking.
Wow. So what was the inspiration for doing the movie?
The inspiration for doing the movie was actually, I guess I can say this 11 years later, was when I was walking down the street. I was literally about, maybe about 50 feet from my front door. And I'm down the driveway, and in front of this big oak tree, or whatever kind of tree, sycamore probably. And I'm looking around, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? And I see in my mind's eye, literally pop up, a vignette. And the vignette is of me driving up in a 1965 convertible Mustang, driving up the driveway, and as I'm passing the second house, I turn to my left and I see this girl, catches my eye. She's striking, beautiful blonde-haired girl. Sharon Tate incarnation, let us just say, to cut to the chase, dressed in this 1960s attire with a red bandana, scarf around her forehead, and she's just beautiful, and I didn't recognize her as that. I just, at the time in the movie, at the scene, I just saw her as this beautiful blonde. It's like, oh my God. So my head turns to the left as I'm driving up the driveway, and it's like, oh wow. And it's like, I just immediately, instinctively, like, oh Jesus, like you're just trying to turn to the left and go down over the hillside. Well, straighten your wheel out. So I do this, and I jerk the car back, and it comes back, and I'm driving back up the driveway. And the next thing I know is the camera then cuts, the shot cuts to the side view. And it's just like the camera pans across my face as I'm doing this, like turning the car back and straightening it out before I go down the side of the hill. And I see it pans across my face and up and into the rearview mirror. And in the rearview mirror, there's nothing there. And it was like a little mini, like a 10-second movie. And it's like, whoa, what the hell was that? And I kid you not, I heard a voice say, it's Sharon, I want you to write this down. And I'm like, who's Sharon? I said, Sharon isn't Sharon down the street, Sharon. And it was just like, okay, all right. I think I've learned that when I hear voices in my head or see something, I like, all right, don't question, don't question. When you question, you have complications and problems. And this goes back, and if you want me to give you the little quick synopsis of that, I'll give you a quick one on that. 16 years old, lost my virginity, had this girlfriend, whatever. She lived down in the flats, and my parents lived up in the hills, not too far from here. And my friend who lived down there was going to go home with his girlfriend, and I said, look, why don't you take Sarah home? And he goes, all right, no problem. And Glenn said, I'll take her, no sweat. And Sarah goes, no, you take me home. It's like, Sarah, please. I'm exhausted. I've got a headache. Don't. And the spirit's voice said, don't take her home. Let Glenn take her home. If you take her home, bad things are going to happen. So she twisted my arm. She makes me take her home. I take her home, got her home safe. On the drive back, I heard a noise coming from down on the radio. So I'm driving up Rexford Drive, just north of Santa Monica Boulevard, and I look down for a split second, and my 1974 Mustang 2 Ghia bronze-colored car ends up, I look down for a split second, it has a bad toe on the car, so it basically veered to the right and right into a lamppost at around 25 miles an hour. I totaled the car. As a result of not listening to my guides, and this is one of many incidents that I've had in my lifetime where I said, not going to listen, not going to do it, and bam, end up having a problem of some sort or another. It's like, after a while you say, I'll listen. I will listen if it because it'll protect me from my own goodness and my own self. It's just something there trying to protect me from something that's not my response, that I can avoid.
Yeah.
So I go back in the house and I write this little vignette down. This continues without a voice saying anything, but the vignettes, all these different vignettes start popping in my head over a 3-month period. And I've got a whole bunch of little paragraphs, little like 3-sentence paragraphs of scenes I see in my head. And it's like, I know immediately, got to go back and write it down. And I put them all down in a legal pad. So I get my friend Jim Vines, who's a writer, he's a film writer, and I said, Jim, you got to come over here. I'd known him all the way back to high school. And I said, you got to take a look at this. And he looks at this and he says, you've got. I said, no, what? He goes, you've got scenes that you need to put in order for a film. And it's like you need some other scenes, but basically it's the layout of the story of a film. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. So we literally took all of these little vignettes and we cut them up into basically a pieces, each paragraph into pieces, and we basically put them together in different orders and put connecting scenes, whatever that you need, transition scenes that you need, and came up with some great ideas of some stuff that we incorporated from my own personal experiences here in the house, of things that had happened to Dr. Taff and other people as well as myself, and we incorporated that into the film as well. So it became a part fact, part fantasy type of a film, and that's what we came up with for the film, House at the End of the Drive. And I changed the names. I changed the names of Sharon Tate and everybody else because I thought it was going to be bringing more attention back to Manson as a result, and I didn't want to do that. Secondly, if I did that, not only the legal aspects, but I'm basically stuck in a one-trick pony, and then I'm dealing with helter-skelter. And the best way to disempower a lot of that is to do a movie that is change the names, and you basically parallel the victims with a few little minor modifications that I went through for literary license. But we changed a few of the little circumstances because I wasn't going to do the Sharon Tate murders. But what I did was I also was able to then be able to create a story that disempowered Manson, because my murderer, who is one male, is actually there. He's the Manson character with 3 girls, but his motive is totally devoid of what Manson's was. And it's totally different motivation. Plus, I can do a sequel and prequel and a remake with my story, and I'm not beholden to anybody that's going to say it's not the same as the Manson. But of course, it's not. It's a homage to Sharon J. And let's see, Sharon J, Abigail, and Roman, because I put Roman there, and I took Stephen Parent out of the picture. I took Wojciech Wojciechowski out of the picture, and I didn't make my actress, up-and-coming actress, pregnant either. But it's still, those the other characters. Sharon's there, Abigail's there, and Jay Sebring is there. So you have 3 of the 5 victims there in representation in the movie, very clearly as such.
Right. And
so
obviously it's influenced by your life living in the house.
Yeah.
And what's it like living in the house for you on a day-to-day basis? Is there anything... how do I say it? Is there anything different?
You're asking, let me put it this way. You're asking a guy who's always wanted to build a house with his father and who's been a builder since I can remember. He built the house I was born and raised in.
Yeah.
And so to me, that house which I lived in for the better part of my youth, which I loved to death, we rebuilt here on this property. So, like I said to some NFL football players who visited the house and we had some ghostly activity happen, they said, well, if it was us and the brothers were here and this all went down, we'd be out of here in 2 seconds. And it's like, look, I spent 3 years of my blood, sweat, and tears of my life with my mother, my father, and a little help from my sister designing and building this house. And I was hands-on with my dad on this house because we really built it. And I said, I don't give a rat's ass if the devil himself walked in here. I'd kick his ass to the ground and say, get the hell out of my house. You're not touching my legacy, and that's it. You can't lay claim to it, and that's some of the, facts of life. So they laughed, and they said, well, yeah, if it was us, we'd still get out, even if that was the case. And it's like, no, my mother's dead. My father's now dead. At the time he wasn't. I said, I'm not leaving this place for anything, for hell and high water, no way.
Yeah.
I said, I love it too much. And I said, and I've always wanted to have a house that was haunted. I said, so I'm really not upset about it being haunted.
Yeah.
I said, I have no problems. And to be honest, it's not haunted as much as it's a portal. And they happen to be, as a lot of people have called it, as one person called it, it's a ghost flop house. So the ghosts come in and they relax and they chill and they enjoy the environment and they basically scoot on, and some stay for a long time. But to me, the sounds in the middle of the night, and I'm a night owl, so I'm working sometimes like 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and I hear sounds, and I say, okay, or I see stuff, and it's like, okay, I saw that. I said, you guys, don't think I'm blind to it. I said, I appreciate that. And I really compliment them when they do something really, really strong and really direct. And what I mean by strong and direct would be, about 4 or 5 months ago, I'm in my bathroom and I'm taking my tennis shoes off, and I realize they're scuffed up with little dirt and a little mud, and so I take the rag and I turn the water on in the sink, and in the master bedroom, and I go sit down and turn it off, and I go off to the edge of the bathtub and I start cleaning my shoe off, and all of a sudden I'm like scrubbing away and I hear the sound of water running. And it's like out of the blue, and I hear dead silence. And all of a sudden I hear the water running, and I'm going, what the hell? And I look up, and what do you know? The sink's on both hot and cold, full bore. And I go, oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. I said, you guys, I said, oh. I said, that is the greatest. I said, I love that. I said, you guys, I said, I was really like, just so happy. And I said, I appreciate that so very much. I said, that is a great one. I said, now that you've done it for my friend Adam, you've done it for me. I said, I love it. I said, I really appreciate that. I said, but on a serious note, you do know California is in the middle of a terrible drought. Yeah. So as much as I appreciate you doing that, and right in front of me, of course, which I really appreciate, I'm going to turn off the faucet and said, but we can't do that ever again, really. I said, I love it, but we can't do that. And I said, so if you want to do something more impressive, and as impressive as that, please go right ahead and do it. I said, I just want you to know I really appreciate that. That is so cool. And that's how I treat it.
Yeah. So for the most part, you're pretty comfortable, pretty happy.
Yeah, because you got to remember, I mean, I treat it like I gave them a place to hang out and chill. Before there was this, as I told them, one famous incident that took place when I got an electric bill that was 3.5 times the normal amount. I basically hit the bricks, and I said, yeah, that's it. This is not going to take place in my house. You're not going to force me out with the financial burden of this. So I went to the second floor and went down the hallway to the I guess where the laundry room is, where there's a cinder block wall, and I took out the bill, and I said, in my right hand, I've got this DWP electric bill. It's 3.5 times the amount of normal. It's $700. I said, I cannot and will not tolerate such. I said, I can't afford this. I said, last I checked, I'm the one here who's got pockets, and in that pocket is a wallet, and in that wallet is cash, and you're trying to bleed me dry of cash? I said, since you guys don't have pants, and since you don't have pockets, and in those pockets that you don't have a wallet with the cash, I have to be paying for this. So we're going to get this straight. We're going to come to an arrangement, and if you do not oblige, I will find the world's greatest psychics, exorcists, and demonologists, who the hell else is out there. I'll find them, and I'll get you guys banished out of this house. I said, we will not do that again. I said, you have to tell me that. We won't do that. I promise you. I said, I will not accept that. And I said, lay down the ground rules of what they could and they could not do. And I said that you can manifest. You just can't manifest right behind me and scare the crap out of me. That's not acceptable. I said, you can manifest like Jay did, which was perfect. He looked terrific. I said, I love that suit, Jay. I'll never forget. And I said, he wasn't all bloodied up. And that's what I'd heard, that when you come back as your finest personage as you were when you were alive. And that makes sense. But why would Sharon come down the end of the driveway to this woman, bloodied up, looking like a disgusting mess, like she died? It's like, doesn't make sense. Sounds like a Hollywood movie to me.
Yeah.
That's why when I heard that, I said she's lying through her teeth, or she's seeing something in her mind that she's creating, but it's not really there.
Yeah.
Big difference between seeing an apparition like I did 11 years ago. He was right there in front of me, and what it turned out he was pointing to was the the property next door that was now under construction some 9 years later. And it was a huge construction, so he was forewarning me. So I don't,
Yeah.
I found that, the whole, I should say, disrespectful, disingenuous reenactment,
Yeah.
just Hollywood drama. And unfortunately, that's sad, but it's not true, and I don't believe it. Again, I said I don't believe it. Whether or not she says it happened, fine. I don't believe it happened. That's
Right.
my opinion. Personally, my opinion.
Oh yeah. And so you say you think it's a portal. So people just come and visit, some short, some longer times. Is there any particular ghosts or spirit that have come across that you've recognized that's had nothing to do with the whole Mets and
Yes,
that
yes.
group?
As a matter of fact, yes. There's a few that I can highlight. One of them is a Native American who Lisa Williams famously claimed to me that she said she saw him in the third level earthen wall room, which is famous because Lisa came in there and she goes, "Oh, do you know there's a Native American up in the corner there, and he's on horseback, and he says that his remains are interred on this earth here." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, his story he's relating to me is that what you have now is the driveway was a horse path, and that horse path is where he was walking to the end of the driveway, which was a plateau, which was ceremonial grounds to the Native Americans." I said, "Burial?" And she goes, "No, it was just ceremonial. It was a plateau at the top, at the end of the driveway that looked down on the canyon, but it had high energy." And it's like, oh, that's interesting, because a lot of my friends that were gifted and the psychics that had come over, and then before her, had always, when they walked on that property, when the gates were open some 13 years ago, said to me, "Oh my, because there's lots of Native American energy I'm feeling here." And I'm thinking, Native American energy, yeah, really? Come on, we're in the center of, the hills of Beverly Hills. Come on, I can't believe that. And that was kind of stupid of me to be so naive, because in fact there was a Native American tribe that was up in this area called the Tongva tribe, and they lived up in this area pre-1890s, 1900s, before they were moved to their reservations out in San Gabriel in the San Gabriel Valley. So it was like, wow. So she said this to me, and she goes, his body had basically hidden in the horses, basically tripped on the hillside, on the path, fell down the hillside, and in so doing, the horse broke its neck and died, and also in so doing crushed him, and he died. And the remains were left on the side of the hill and never seen, and basically covered by the earth and the mudslides through the years. I was like, oh, fascinating. So I would bring different psychics in here, and damn it to hell, if you won't believe it, Chris Fleming comes up with the same thing. James Von Prague comes up with the same thing. Jackie Barrett comes in and comes up with the same thing. And Lisa Williams, from what I understand, wasn't sitting there telling people about her experience here at the house, or so I believe. So each one of these people is coming up with their own story about the same thing from what they understood as being there. And I'm like, oh my dear God. And others as well said the same thing. So it was like, how crazy is that? And the next thing I know is I tell Zach Baggins, and he turns it around and says it's Native Ceremonial Indian Burial Grounds. And I said, no, it's not Native American Ceremonial Indian Burial Grounds. I said, one guy died on the hillside, and he was buried where he died, just like when you're in the wilderness, where you die is where you die. That's it. And his bones recovered through the years, through the mudslide, and it's like, what am I supposed to say about this? The guy embellishes things to the extent that it's like, you can lie and make people look bad, but if you do so, you're the one who should look bad, not me.
Yeah.
And apparently he went on a tirade about me being this, that, and the other thing on his his Twitter account. And then he wrote a book called I'm Haunted, and slandered me left, right, and center. Yeah. About me and my house, and said I'm possessed and I'm difficult to work with. And it was like, gee, Zach, is there something that you're afraid of by me? Because I've lived here for 13 years, and last count, you spent less than 3 hours of a 6-hour lockdown in my house, and you left, and literally were sick for 3 days after they left the house. I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
They were ill in their beds for 3 days after they left this house. All 3 of them apparently got sick. So, as I said, all of the spirits that collectively were attached to them, physically and just emotionally, they hit this environment. They got slam dunked because they all basically took their wrath out on them and said, hey, you know something? I'm at the beach, and I got some muscles here at the beach because the sun's pouring down on me, and I'm near the ocean, and I feel rejuvenated, and guess what? I can do things to you. And they basically gave them, 4, 5, and 6. And that's what happened. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but true. That's what, so like I said, I don't fear the spirits. I have a mutual respect for them. And no, I don't personally believe that we can, force them into the light. From what I've seen, they're energy. And if they want to do something, they do it. If they're here and it's beyond our frail manipulative powers to let them go and say, hey, we don't know where we're trying to send you, but we're going to tell you where to go. And I say to people that are very gifted, if you like, please, if you want to speak to spirits and tell them go into the light, could you please get the clouds and the sky to bring over California and rain here, something fierce? Because just like ghosts, the weather is energy. It's the same thing. It's all interconnected. That's what I'm saying to you. Energy is energy. It's not limited. We can't really control energy. You can't rationalize with energy. It's on its own path and plane of existence. The difference is you can see clouds, you can feel them, and just like spirits, you can feel them when they want to be felt. But sometimes, even up here, we've had it where we were here a couple months ago doing an investigation, and we went outside, and it was, I hate to say the words, dead quiet, but it was eerily dead silent. Not a cricket, not a bird, not a chirp, not anything, not even the wind blowing. It was just quiet. And it was just like a vacuum. We were all outside talking about, wow, isn't it interesting? It's just like silent. It's just quiet. It's just eerily dead, not a peep, and not even a movement of air. It was so weird. It was just like crazy. But that's what I'm saying to you. It's that type of a thing. It's innocuous to us. So people say, I can tell spirits are going to the light. It's like,
well, you can suggest it, but
you can suggest it, but again, it's free will, and that's what I've seen here at the house. Lisa, I said, can you get them into the light? And she goes, no. She goes, famously enough, I'll read you what her quote was about here in the house and me, right from a newspaper article called the Sunday Daily Express in the UK, and this is from. The article was called Legacy of Manson's Evil, and it's dated August 9th, 2009. Tom Shush. And it was, let's see, did it all be places? Lisa remembers, LA-based British psychic Lisa Williams, who regularly presents a television show on Life Beyond the Grave, has visited the house and confirmed Sharon Tate's presence. Quote, Sharon was definitely there. She feels safe there, quote, unquote. She claims one woman, Lisa remembers, Lisa also explained why she thinks the actress's spirit is in David Oman's house and not her own home just up the street. Quote, a spirit will go where it's comfortable. If the house she was in has the wrong person in it, the spirit will pull away from the area. Well, her house is gone anyways, but she may also have had a friend who lived on this property where David's house now stands, unquote, which was never a house here. It was always just a hillside, and I have pictures to prove it from way back then in 1969. Lisa believes there's a strange relationship between the homeowner and his guest. She asks the spirit why she stays in the house and refuses to cross over. Quote, she kept saying she liked this house. She likes being around David. Sharon was very angry and wanted her story told, unquote. So there you go. That's according to Lisa Williams and why it is that Sharon's here. And to me, I feel have a very symbiotic, compassionate relationship with them and appreciate the gift that she gave me in the form of the vignettes that I created the film, House at the End of the Drive with. I just feel fortunate and really blessed by the fact that I live in a place that's got so much activity, and I'm able to afford the opportunity both to the living and the dead to come here and stay here and hang out here and to visit. That's for the living, to visit, not to hang out here and stay here by any stretch of the imagination. Trust me. I might have 10,000 ghosts, and I'm not kidding you from what I've been told.
Yeah.
However, I don't have to see them and be crowded like a sardine can, and that's when I have had like 5 people here and it gets crowded. So
Yeah.
that is the living, that is, the 5 living, because they bring their own stuff with them, and the baggage of the living, as I've said, is far worse than the baggage of the dead.
Yeah.
In other words, you have more to fear from the living than you do the dead.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
So
true.
that's how I look at it. Bringing Rudolph Valentino with all of his problems from 100 years ago, if they had, no big deal. Bring them on. The Native Americans and Rudolph seem to get along just fine from what Lisa said. So
Yeah. So did you ever fear of anything really bad coming in to the house one
No.
day? No?
No, I've heard of that whole thing. Oh, there's demons. It's like, something?
Yeah.
That's more religiosity.
Yeah.
I don't care what I have seen spiritually speaking. First of all, the house has got a very, very high energy level where there's a certain, let us say, gradient that they can't cross. That if you're evil, etc., bad, malicious, you can't hang here. They just don't. They don't get a chance to reside here. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's a council or maybe there's like a ghost town or a ghost town association. But I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I've had people here that will make your skin crawl on a physical level that have under their belts lots of, crimes and murders.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know for a fact that I did because on one night, somebody who was working in the record industry brought over a group of, let's just say, people that are not really high considered. Well, let's just not say anything about them. Let's just say they were of another group of a group of gentlemen that. Let's just say 31 people that were just, well, let's just not say it, but they were here as this is like 5-6 years ago, and they were representing themselves as record producers to see the movie. Well, let's say their hobbies included things that we wouldn't want to discuss.
Yeah.
But let's just say one of them is definitely, it involves people and people that aren't alive anymore. But that's just rumor has it. But in any event, so they were basically here, and they felt stuff, and I said, look, it's not up to me. It's the spirits do what they want. So if I'm not God, I'm not a judge, I'm not the jury. I'm just telling you, I'm just here as a person. I can read you guys, and you guys are fine by my standards. You're not harming me, and I'm letting you hang here, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But the point is that, most people consider these guys dangerous.
Yeah.
Really dangerous. I mean, really dangerous. And I'm not just saying that to make it like drama. I'm saying, no, these guys are definitely, dangerous.
Yeah.
And you don't want to cross them. And I didn't.
Yeah.
And they were here. And they were here for several hours. They saw the movie. So that's what I'm saying to you. They didn't. Again, if I can have them here, I should be more afraid of them than I am of a demon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree.
Because a demon, in my estimation, is just somebody who's got a malicious, bad attitude that was alive. His personality is pretty much vicious and a piece of work. And for the most part, you're not going to want to hear this, I think. For the most part, those types of energies don't get to stay. Hitler's soul is not on this earth.
Right.
John Wayne Gacy's energy is not on this earth. I have a funny feeling he is in some place that is probably roasting. And I don't mean hell, I just mean a place that is just very uncomfortable, because that kind of energy almost seems like the universe has a way of like saying the yin and the yang. And unfortunately, there is a place, I have a feeling that if you are that vicious and just just that, like the kid who killed his school teacher a couple of days ago that we heard about, the 14-year-old kid who's now going to try him as an adult, who slit his teacher's throat. It was in Yahoo. I was reading that today on the news.
Yeah.
You know, out on the East Coast, it was like, you know, there's a special place for people like that in the universe, and it's not a pleasant one.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they don't come back. It's like people, they're demons. No, that type of stuff doesn't get recycled. It gets put away in a place like toxic waste, is what I think.
Yeah.
That energy.
Yeah.
And I don't think it comes out. And I think, unfortunately, we want to make that statement that it comes out and use it as an excuse or something. I think that's something that we harbor. It's more a reflection of the person who is the one that's feeling it. Like Elaine Warren. Her and I was once a big fan of theirs, and then once I started hearing stories and watching them, I started saying, you know something? I don't know. I'm just not impressed anymore. And I'm not interested in a lot of these people, because a lot of people are like what Houdini was up against when he was practicing. He was basically trying to get rid of the spiritualists because he saw it as a profit and gain business. In a lot of regards, I think it's turned into that.
Oh, yeah.
From the pieces of equipment you can buy to this one and that one, it's like, gee, if you have a compass and you have a tape recorder or even a digital recorder and a 35-millimeter camera that's a piece of junk that can take one picture, no more, and then you have to advance it and you get yourself some 400 and 800 speed film, you're far well advanced than most people that have equipment and technology, blah, 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 blah. Seriously. I mean, it's that easy. Get yourself a K2 meter just for the hell of it and test it out and stuff, but don't spend thousands of dollars for these different devices because somebody's telling you it's worth it and you have a thanks box. I'm not a fan of any of the ghost localization boxes at all. I don't think they need one. I've seen it here in my own home with a tape recorder and a video camera, and we record straight through, and we replay the EVPs as we record them. And from what I've captured, ain't no thanks box that's making a statement saying, let it go, mija, like we had recorded on 3 different, digital recorders and on the Gastron camera. And now I've got installed throughout the house video cameras with all high-def, 3-megapixel with microphones, but even the microphones pick up the EVPs. And I've got an example of an EVP where we have it on the microphone, on a recorder, on the 2 different cameras in 2 different rooms where you can barely hear it, but you can hear it, the same EVP. And it's not one of the 3 of us. So, to me, that's the kind of stuff that I like. I don't need a thanks box to sing, Charlie. Oh, really? Did you hear that? It said Charlie. Shh, man. Yeah, but what? Did you hear that? It said Manson. Oh, yeah, that's right. It said that. It's like worse than some of the EVPs that have been recorded here. Like, one of the worst, as I personally call it, was the one on Ghost Hunters from 9 years ago. I'm going, what the hell is that? It's like, it sounds like, take me, take me, yeah. I think maybe it says, take me into the light. Well, I heard this. That to me is not a very, very qualified EVP. You want to do an EVP, you take the EVP there, you have the video camera there, you ask your question, you do it like that live, you then you play it back right in front of the camera with a digital, so you have the timeline, so it's shown right in front there that you're shooting this as you're doing this, so nobody can see you took it back and you then processed. I love this. We took this back to the lab and we had to process this and we dropped this and it's like, listen, that's not much of an EVP to me. Yeah. I've had EVPs done right here in my house. Chris Fleming started doing it and we were recording him and he says, let's hear what we just recorded. And he plays them right back there and you listen to somebody saying some response to his comment and you go, okay, I heard it myself right here. I heard it myself right now. And we're recording this, and you can see that I'm responding to what I'm saying because we're doing it right here, right now. And it's not like, we took this back to the lab. We did this modulation. It's like, okay, how many more times can you say I don't believe it? Because if I'm a skeptic, I'm going to question every single process of what you've done with that piece of evidence. And I'd rather have it done the way I do it, because then a skeptic could be damned. I said, how can you prove to me that we just recorded what we did? You saw us videotape it. We recorded this voice, and we did it right in front of the tape, and we didn't change anything. We didn't take the tape recording back to reanalyze it. We just played it for you right there in front of you as we recorded it. And there's very little doubt and dispute that can be laid out there about what you've done, because your methodology is almost semi-scientific by the fact that you're taking out any any kind of question of, well, we went back and we adjusted. It's like, no, we did it right there and right then. There was nothing. There's no question of what was happening, where it was happening, how it was happening. Our veracity is impeccable right here, right now.
Yeah.
And so that way it's done in a manner that they go, holy wow. It's like, yeah, I want to wow them so they understand that what we're talking about is 100% no holds barred, real.
Yeah. So are you taking tours at the house? Like, what goes on there now? Do you run tours or let people come?
I did. I was doing tours and paranormal investigation tours here for the past year and a half, up until about, 2 months ago now. I stopped. I just discontinued them on the anniversary of the murders. Mm-hmm. They were going for 7 hours. They would go from 8 in the evening to, it was a Friday and Saturday night. They'd go from 8 in the evening to 3 in the morning. And we would include the 3 different packages. One included the baseball cap and hat and T-shirt that I supplied the Oman House. Then there was the one that was just the baseball cap, the T-shirt. And then the other one was just a package just to come in and go on the tour, which, of course, was all included, such as when you came in the house, we weren't nickel and diming you to say, hey, you want some soda? Here, go to our little cookie stand here. That's right, we'll sell you soda for $5. Oh, you want some popcorn? Here's some bag of popcorn for $5. No, you want some cookies? Here's a little bag of cookies. I didn't feel like doing that. I said, look, if you're coming into my house, I said, you're guests. So I put out a full-on, I kid you not, spread of hors d'oeuvres, which included, we had turkey meatballs, we had regular meatballs, we had guacamole, we had chips, we had 3 different types of salsa, we had hummus, we had pita, we had a vegetable platter, we had a cheese platter, we had sodas and soft drinks and orange juice and different juices. So it was like, so if you're hungry, come upstairs and just head up to the gosh darn the buffet. Basically had a whole thing out there, a smorgasbord of food people could just sit there and eat. Oh, and of course chocolate chip cookies and oatmeal cookies and the raisins. What else did we have? And the macadamia nut white chocolate cookies. Because I said, look, when you're investigating, you're here at somebody's house for 7 hours. It would be foolish for me to say, all right, here's our little crafts van. I said, first of all, it looks cheap. Second of all, I said, I don't want to sit there and have to have you guys feel like you have to bring your wallets out. I said, you got your ticket. I said, you paid your $100. I said, that's it. I said, you're done. I said, you don't have to do nothing. Take as much video as you want. Just promise to share it with me. Any of the photographs that you capture, if you get anything, just share it with me. That's the type of thing. And it was limited to like 20 people per investigation tops. And everybody had a great time with it. I just got tired of doing it because of the wear and tear on the house.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of, hassling. I said, if somebody wants to come here and say, look, we want to rent the house up and set it up, we'll get, we want the investigator. If they want to pay, I can go get Chris Fleming to come out from Chicago, and he'll lead an investigation and seance. Because we would also do the seance as part of it. As far as the tour, we'd taken for the tour of the house. The house had the 16 HD cameras, which were broadcast upstairs in the garage, so you could go watch upstairs in the control room on the big screen projector that we had up there, so you could see what was going on in different parts of the house. And sometimes it was a better place to stay than going downstairs into the thick of it, because you could actually watch stuff that was going on in the darkness down in the house. And you get to watch this guy's. In one case, one of the kids that was on the tours, his shirt lifts up in the back. And he comes rushing upstairs. He goes, something scratched me. So we watched the video, and sure enough, we watched the back of his shirt right below the collar lift up. And then the next thing you see is his hidden trying to scratch his back. And where the scratches are, well, the scratches are in a place in between his shoulder blades, above where he could scratch and below where his neck is, so he couldn't reach it. So that's what we saw. And it was funny as hell because you could see it on the big screen, on the big, was it 110-inch projector there. I was like, what the hell? Oh, my God. Do you see that? It's like, yeah, I see it. So,
yeah.
Stuff like that. Oh, I was going to say, a lot of the footage we actually have is on YouTube. If you go to the YouTube channel, you can actually see some of the crazy stuff, including the butcher block, spinning off the television set in what was then the earthen wall room, which is now, I finally built it into a kitchenette, because my father and I were discussing that but when I was moving in, but it was like something I finally did my own self. So
yeah. So now that you're not doing the tours, where do you see yourself going with the house now?
Well, hopefully the rest of my life, spend the rest of my life here. But honestly, what I seem to be doing is we just had the Poltergeist DVD Blu-ray release party here, which was great. We actually did a full-on investigation here for about 35 bloggers that came to the house, and we brought them in, and we did the whole series of, not like I did this, it was different. We actually brought this up, and they had this set up into 4 or 5 stations. So it was a rotating station thing where you'd have 7 or 8 people in a group, and that group would then rotate to the next station, which was basically their way of doing it. Didn't exactly provide us with as much paranormal activity as I would have liked. We did have a lot of activity because they dressed up the guest bedroom into this little girls type room, similar to what was in the movie. And let's just say that the resident little girl Gwendolyn, who's here, appeared, and she's a little girl that we think died in the late 30s, early 40s. And when she came, when we felt the energy in the house after they dressed up the bedroom, I walked in there and said, "Oh my God, this isn't my house. This is not my room. I don't know whose room this is, but it's not mine." I just felt this like overwhelming sense of happiness and joy, like little girl going, "Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it." And we recorded her voice singing in that room, as a matter of fact. So it's quite a bizarre sensation to be in there, to say the least. And it's strange. It's just strange. And see, there was a keyboard they had there, and the keyboard would, on its own, hit a single note while they were down there, some people reported. So that'll give you an idea of what type of craziness we were having here.
Yeah. Well.
But I mean, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do private events where somebody comes in. I don't want to sit there to the public and start doing all that. If somebody wants to come in and say, "Look, I want to rent the house out. I want you to get us the paranormal investigative team like you've had before, that you're comfortable with, that works here well, you're psychic, would like to do that for an event, for a party," I'd be more than happy to do something like that. It might not be a party, but it might be some type of an event where they want to do something on those lines for a small group of people. I'd be happy to be, discussing that with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. And so, you just see yourself doing that now for quite a while?
Well, right now, as well as I'm trying to get the film House at the End of the Drive out, I'd like to see that get to theaters. We just actually finished it a couple of weeks ago. We added the first minute intro to the film, which I always pleaded with my executive producer that I felt we needed, which was an introduction from the real-life scenario to the movie. And it really, really makes a difference because it introduces the whole entire story in a 1-minute piece. And it's terrific. And that actually was basically a 1-minute bit of newsreel footage of the Sharon Tate murders, the discovery thereof. And it's perfect. It just explains it. So when you watch that, you understand the beginning where it says the movie was inspired by the true events that shocked the world. The names have been changed to protect the dead. And then it goes ... who are still not at rest. And that's perfect because now people understand because of the movie, the TV series Aquarius, people are very much more familiar with the Manson story on the Sharon Tate murders.
Yeah.
So it's really timely. I just need to find myself somebody out there that, I guess, a distributor that says, listen, we'll take this out for a limited theatrical release, and we'll put some money from behind it with you as the point man on the marketing, and your house will be a marketing place that will be utilized to the fullest extent, and we'll do it. That's what I'm looking for. That's honestly what I'd like to do, so I can see this film of mine, hit the public.
Yeah. Can people see it now or find it anywhere?
No, it's not. It has not been released in any way, shape, or form. I still hold all the rights, and it's still here.
Yeah. Well, it'd be exciting.
Down the street from the house at the end of the drive.
Yeah. Well, it'd be exciting. It'd be exciting to get it out, I think.
Well, as a matter of fact, there is a place. I will tell you this. As a matter of fact, there is a place that you can come and see it once and only once. It's actually going to be playing at Stan Lee's Kamikaze at the LA Convention Center. And of all the nights, get this, it's going to be playing on Halloween, October 31st at 5:30 p.m. in a real live theater screening room. It'll be playing out there. And I will be there in person at Stan Lee's Kamikaze for Friday and Saturday. We have a corner booth. You can look it up under House at the End of the Drive or Allure Entertainment 1, or it might be under the Oman House. But you can find us there, and we will be there. I'll have some T-shirts, some hats. Like I said, showing some video of the activity here at the house, etc., etc.
Yeah, and so when do you?
That'll be October 30th and October 31st.
Okay.
That's Friday and Saturday night. Friday and Saturday days at the LA Convention Center.
Wow.
This coming up in 4 weeks.
And how do people get a hold of you if they want to pass on some information or maybe ask some questions?
I'd have to say sign up to my YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/David Oman. You can always send messages on that. Also, I guess if it's super important, I guess I would say you can send a message through the House at the End of the Drive.com website. You can join. There's certainly ways on that website. We also have the Oman House.com. That is THEOMAN Oman House. THEOMANHOUSE.com. And you can go there to the omanhouse.com and you can get yourself some information about my house and some of the ghost tours we used to have, but you can also email us through that as well. Oh. And anybody that's interested in doing any of this paranormal, renting the house out for a paranormal investigation type of a thing, please go do that through the house, theomanhouse.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for doing the interview.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Look forward to doing some in the future if you have any more time that you want me on.
Oh, for sure.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.